Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk to you again about the ETG. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why you don't want an ETG. In fact, you're not getting an ETG. How's that? But in all seriousness, you're not getting an ETG. And let me tell you why. There's a couple reasons. First of all, you cannot have just an ETG. And we get a lot of calls from people saying, well, I want an emergency temporary guardianship, the ETG. And I think part of that revolves around the fact that, you can get an emergency court order under the Baker Act. You can get an emergency court order under the Marchman Act. But you cannot just get an emergency order under the guardianship statute. In order to petition the court for an emergency temporary guardianship, the ETG, you have to file it as part of a filing for permanent guardianship. It's not a standalone. It's kind of like an a la carte option. Think of it as a hamburger, right? You go into your favorite hamburger joint and you order a hamburger, and the person, the server says to you, would you like that with or without fries? And you say, I'd like it with fries. The fries are the ETG, the hamburger is the permanent guardianship. Now, you enjoy your hamburger so much that you go back a second time and you say, I'd like a plate of French fries. And they say, I'm really sorry, you can't have just French fries. You have to order the hamburger too. And you're like, that's insanity. I only want French fries. And you're like, well, that's fine. You can have the French fries, but it's coming with the hamburger and you have to pay for the hamburger. And so this is a bit like ETG and permanent guardianship. You cannot have just the ETG alone. So that's the first part. The second thing is, even if you could, I don't think it necessarily helps you in terms of helping your loved one to experience the miracle of recovery. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that as a general rule, when a family comes to us because their loved one has been suffering for years and years and years, it is a year-long journey to get your loved one not only into recovery, but so they have sufficient time to heal physically, emotionally, spiritually, and to develop the habits and the rituals so they can maintain recovery for the rest of their lives. So you can finally end the nightmare that is completely and utterly destroying your family. And so let's talk about what that looks like just for a second. So typically, whether it's a guardianship, a Marchman Act, and a combination of both, which we like to do a lot of because that gives you maximum control over an out-of-control situation, typically we're going to put somebody into treatment for 3 as a minimum, typically 6 months. Even on a Marchman Act, we're going to put your loved one into treatment for 6 months. And then afterwards, they got to work what's known as a continuum of care. What does that look like? Well, it means they continue with some type of outpatient services. They probably live in a recovery residence. They work the 12 steps. They go to meetings. They get a sponsor. All of the things that they will need to maintain recovery. And the idea is that we want to set it a path for 1 year, okay? We know from experience, if you can get somebody into recovery for 1 year, they're more likely than not to maintain recovery for the rest of their life. And that's the goal here, right? The goal here is to do this one time and get it right the first time. But it does take time, okay? And I want you to think about this as a year-long project. I want you to think about what your loved one was like before the insanity of this world you are now living in existed. And I want you to take that image and I want you to burn it. I want you to burn it onto the frontal cortex of your mind. And I want you to keep it there because that's where we are going. But it's going to take time. And anybody who tells you otherwise, who tells you, well, it can be done in 30 days, walk away from it. In fact, run as fast as you can away from that person because that kind of silliness only happens in the movies. It doesn't happen in the real world, at least not in the world that I live in and my team lives in, which is the world of reality and the world of recovery. So look, I know I say, you don't want an ETG, and I say it tongue in cheek because it's a great tool, but understand it's just, number one, it can't be filed alone, and number two, it's just a temporary 90-day court order, which if we need, we can extend. But it's not a permanent guardianship, and you're going to need a permanent guardianship at some point so that you have enough control for the period of time that we're going to need to keep your loved one in recovery so they can experience lifelong recovery. So anyway, I appreciate you tuning in. I would love a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.